The year was 2157, when the first alien ship appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system. It came without warning, a sleek vessel that looked nothing like the clunky rockets humans had been launching into space. The ship belonged to the Aldorian Collective, a group of aliens who have controlled over 1,000 worlds across the galaxy. Commander Thale sat in his captain's chair aboard the scout ship Windseeker, watching the small blue planet spin slowly on his main screen. His forearms moved across the control panels with practiced ease, running scan after scan of the world below. The readings were not impressive. The humans had basic nuclear weapons, primitive spacecraft that barely reached their moon, and governments that seemed to spend more time fighting each other than working together. Thal's assistant, a younger Aldorian named Kess, looked up from her station. "Commander, should we make contact with them?" Thal's large eyes blinked slowly as he considered the question. The humans had just discovered how to send radio signals into deep space, which was how the Collective had found them in the first place. But they were clearly not ready to join the galactic community. They still fought wars over resources, destroyed their own environment, and showed no signs of unity as a species. No, Thale decided, they are too primitive. Mark them for observation. In 500 years, maybe by then they will have learned to work together. The Windseeker completed its scans and prepared to leave. But for exactly 4.7 seconds, the ship's passive sensors interfaced with Earth's satellite network. It was a tiny mistake, the kind that happened when alien technology briefly touched human systems. Most species would never have noticed such a small event. Dr. Marcus Bell noticed Bell was working late in his laboratory at the International Space Research Center in Australia. He had been monitoring deep space radio frequencies for years, hoping to find signs of intelligent life beyond Earth. When his equipment detected the brief signal from the Aldorian ship, his heart nearly stopped. The signal was unlike anything humans had ever created. It contained mathematical patterns that no Earth computer could generate, compressed data streams that suggested technology far beyond human understanding, and most importantly, it was clearly artificial. For those few seconds, Bell knew without doubt that humans were not alone in the universe. Bell stared at his screens for hours, running the data through every analysis program he could find. The signal had come from somewhere near Jupiter, lasted less than 5 seconds, and then vanished completely. But it was enough. They all knew that someone or something had been watching Earth. Within hours, Bell was on a secure video call with the leaders of every major nation on Earth. Presidents, prime ministers, and generals listened in stunned silence as he explained what he had discovered. The evidence was clear and undeniable. An alien ship had scanned Earth and then left without making contact. The implications were terrifying. Aliens existed and had the technology to reach Earth. Why had they not made contact? Were humans considered too primitive to bother with? Were they a threat to be eliminated? Or were they simply being studied like animals in a zoo? The world's leaders debated for days about how to respond. Some wanted to send messages into space, trying to contact the aliens and prove that humans were intelligent and peaceful. Wanted to prepare for war, assuming that any alien contact would be hostile. But it was the Chinese president who suggested the idea that would change everything. "What if we disappear?" she asked during one of the emergency meetings. "What if we make them think we are gone?" The idea was radical but simple. If the aliens thought humans were too primitive to matter, then humans would use that assumption against them. Earth would go silent. Every radio transmission, every satellite signal, every electromagnetic signature that might reach space would be carefully controlled or eliminated. To any alien observers, it would appear that human civilization had collapsed or destroyed itself. Meanwhile, in secret, humanity would prepare. Underground cities would be built. New technologies would be developed. The human race would unite in a way it never had before, working together toward a single goal: survival and eventual emergence as a galactic power. The plan was ambitious beyond anything humans had ever attempted. It would require every nation to work together, sharing resources and knowledge without reservation. It would mean abandoning the surface world as anything more than a carefully maintained illusion. Most importantly, it would require patience on a scale that no human generation had ever shown. But the alternative was to remain primitive and defenseless in a galaxy full of advanced civilizations. The decision was made in a secret meeting attended by representatives from every nation on Earth. The vote was unanimous. Humanity would disappear into silence, using the time to grow strong enough to emerge as equals rather than subjects. Within months, the great work began. Mining operations started deep beneath the Earth's surface. The best scientists and engineers from every country were brought together in hidden facilities. Nuclear reactors were built in underground caverns to power the new civilization that would grow in darkness. On the surface, carefully scripted conflicts continued to play out. Wars were fought with conventional weapons, while the real military resources went underground. Environmental destruction continued at a visible pace, while the real work of preservation happened in hidden laboratories. To any alien observer, humanity appeared to be following the same destructive path that had led to the collapse of countless other primitive species. But beneath the surface, something extraordinary was happening. For the first time in human history, the entire species was working toward a single goal. National boundaries became meaningless. Religious differences were set aside. The color of a person's skin mattered less than the contents of their mind. Humanity was becoming something it had never been before, truly united. The years passed, and the surface world continued its performance of division and decline. But in the depths of the Earth, human civilization was growing stronger than it had ever been. New technologies emerged from the combination of the world's greatest minds. Genetic improvements began extending human lifespans and capabilities. Most importantly, the secrets of faster-than-light travel were slowly being unlocked. 300 years would pass before humanity emerged from its self-imposed exile. When they finally revealed themselves to the galaxy, they would not come as the primitive species that had been dismissed so long ago. They would come as something far more dangerous. A unified civilization that had spent centuries preparing for this moment. The galaxy had forgotten about the small blue planet and its quarrelsome inhabitants. It would soon learn that forgetting about humans had been their first and greatest mistake. 250 years had passed since humanity went silent. Dr. Lisa Park stood in the central command chamber of New Geneva, one of the largest underground cities ever built. The chamber was carved from solid rock 3 kilometers beneath the Swiss Alps, but it looked nothing like a cave. Smooth walls glowed with soft light. Holographic displays showed information from across the hidden human civilization. Park was 180 years old, though she looked barely 40 thanks to the genetic treatments that had become routine in the underground cities. She had been born into this hidden world, trained from childhood to help guide humanity's emergence back into the galaxy. Today, she was reviewing the reports that would determine if that emergence could finally begin. Population is steady at 8 billion, reported Dr. Robert Hayes from his station. Hayes was the head of the Global Population Council, responsible for managing the complex logistics of keeping billions of people fed and housed in underground cities across the planet. Food production is exceeding consumption by 12%. Energy reserves are at maximum capacity. Park nodded and turned to the next report. Chief Engineer David Kim was responsible for the technological progress that would make humanity's return possible. Kim was even older than Park, at nearly 200 years, but his mind was as sharp as ever, thanks to the neural enhancement programs developed in the hidden laboratories. The Prometheus project has achieved all primary objectives, Kim announced. With obvious pride, we have developed faster-than-light travel that produces no detectable energy signatures. Our ships can fold space without creating the electromagnetic disturbances that alien civilizations use for detection. We are essentially invisible when we travel. This was the breakthrough humanity had been working toward for centuries. Every alien civilization they had observed used faster-than-light travel that created massive energy signatures visible from light years away. Human ships would be ghosts in the void, able to move unseen through galactic space. Captain Rosa Delgado stepped forward with the military assessment. Delgado commanded the Earth Defense Force, a military organization that existed only in the deepest levels of the underground cities. Her forces had been training for centuries using combat simulations based on detailed observations of alien military tactics. Our intelligence network has been monitoring 47 different alien civilizations for the past 50 years, Delgado reported. We know their patrol routes, their ship designs, their communication protocols, and their military strategies. We have infiltration drones in every major star system within 100 light-years of Earth. The intelligence drones were one of humanity's greatest achievements. Tiny robotic observers that could remain hidden in asteroid fields and debris clouds for decades while gathering information. The aliens had no idea they were being watched. Have we learned about their current political situation? Park asked. The Aldorian Collective is still the dominant power, but they are facing challenges from the Christarch Empire and the Outer Spiral Arms, Delgado continued. The nomadic Veil Dancers have been raiding shipping lanes, causing economic problems for both major powers. There are rumors of a new species called the Krex that has been attacking settlements on the galactic rim. This intelligence was invaluable. Humanity would not emerge into the galaxy blind and ignorant as they once might have. They knew who the major players were, what they wanted, and how they might react to the sudden appearance of a new interstellar civilization. Dr. Patricia Wong, head of the Biological Enhancement Division, provided the next report. Wong's team had spent centuries improving human capabilities while remaining within the bounds of what could still be called human. They had not created monsters or super soldiers, but they had made humanity stronger, faster, smarter, and longer-lived. Physical enhancement programs have increased average human strength by 40% and reaction time by 60%, Wong reported. Mental enhancement has improved memory retention and processing speed across all test groups. Most importantly, we have extended healthy human lifespan to over 200 years without significant negative side effects. These improvements would be crucial when humanity finally encountered alien species. Many of the galaxy's dominant civilizations had natural advantages over baseline humans. The Aldorians were stronger and lived longer. The Christarch were highly intelligent silicon-based life forms. The Veil Dancers existed partially in higher dimensions. Enhanced humans would be able to compete with these species on more equal terms. The final report came from Dr. Angela Torres, head of the Cultural Preservation Project. Torres had spent her life ensuring that humanity's emergence would not cost them their identity as a species. The underground cities had developed their own culture over the centuries, but it was still recognizably human. Surface monitoring shows that our deception remains effective, Torres reported. Alien observation posts continue to register Earth as a dead or dying world. The staged conflicts and environmental disasters we have been maintaining for 3 centuries continue to convince them that humanity has destroyed itself. This was perhaps the most difficult part of the entire project. Keeping billions of people hidden while maintaining the illusion that humanity was failing required constant effort and careful planning. Surface, playing out carefully scripted roles as the remnants of a failing civilization. They were heroes whose sacrifice made the larger plan possible. Park looked around the command chamber at the faces of the people who had dedicated their lives to this moment. They represented the best of humanity, minds, and talents that had been focused on a single goal for longer than most civilizations existed. The question that had driven them for 3 centuries was finally ready to be answered. Are we ready? Park asked simply. The responses came without hesitation. Hayes confirmed that humanity's hidden civilization could sustain itself indefinitely. Kim guaranteed that their technology was superior to anything the aliens possessed. Delgado assured them that their military was prepared for any response. Wong stated that enhanced humans could survive and thrive in the hostile environment of galactic politics. Torres promised that humanity would emerge with their cultural identity intact. Park took a deep breath and made the decision that would change everything. Then it is time. Begin preparations for emergence. 6 months, humanity will announce its return to the galaxy. The command chamber erupted in quiet celebration. After 3 centuries of preparation, humanity was finally ready to take its place among the stars. It would not emerge as the primitive species that had been dismissed so long ago. They would come as something the galaxy had never seen before, a unified species that had spent centuries preparing for this exact moment. The first human starships were already being moved into position in hidden bases throughout the solar system. Soon, they would begin their journey to the stars, carrying with them the hopes and dreams of a species that had learned patience, unity, and the value of preparation. The mining station Alder 7 was a typical operation for the collective. A small outpost built into an asteroid in a system so remote that most spacers considered it a punishment assignment. Supervisor Keth had been running the station for 3 years, and every day felt exactly the same. The asteroid processing equipment hummed constantly, breaking down space rocks and extracting valuable metals for shipment back to the core worlds. Keth was reviewing the quarterly production reports when his instruments detected something that should not have been possible. A ship had appeared directly above the station without triggering any of the early warning systems. The detection grid showed nothing, and suddenly displayed a vessel that was already close enough to dock. The ship was unlike anything in the collective's databases. Aldorian vessels were angular and efficient. This craft had smooth curves that seemed to flow like liquid metal. Its hull absorbed sensor sweeps instead of reflecting them, making it difficult to determine the ship's exact size or composition. Most disturbing of all, it had appeared without creating any of the energy signatures that faster-than-light travel normally produced. Keth's forearms moved quickly across his control panels, activating the station's defensive systems and sending an emergency signal to the nearest collective patrol. His two assistants, Nex and Vori, looked up from their stations with expressions of confusion and fear. Unknown vessel, Keth transmitted on standard frequencies. You are in violation of collective space. Identify yourself and state your purpose. Response came immediately, spoken in perfect Aldorian with only a slight accent. Alder 7, this is Captain Reed of the Earth vessel Endeavor. We request permission to come aboard and speak with your commanding officer. Keth's mandibles clicked together in confusion. Earth, the primitive world that had been marked for observation centuries ago? According to the records, that species had destroyed itself through warfare and environmental collapse. No signals had been detected from their system for over 200 years. Negative, unknown vessel. You will maintain your current position until collective security forces arrive. Any attempt to approach this station will be considered an act of aggression. Captain Reed's voice remained calm and professional. Supervisor Keth, we understand your concerns. However, we believe you will find our proposal interesting. We are transmitting a small data package that should address your questions about our identity and capabilities. The data package appeared on Keth's screens, and what he saw made his blood run cold. The files contained detailed information about collective military installations, shipping routes, personnel records, and classified research projects. Information that no outsider should have been able to obtain. Presented with the casual confidence of someone reading from a daily news report. How did you obtain this information? Keth demanded, his voice shaking despite his efforts to remain calm. We have been watching Supervisor, the same way you watched us, but with considerably more attention to detail. May we come aboard? Have much to discuss? Keth looked at his assistants, both of whom were staring at the data files with expressions of shock. The information was genuine. He was certain of that. The humans somehow possessed intelligence that could compromise the security of the entire collective. But how is that possible? They were supposed to be extinct. Against his better judgment, Cathothra saw the human shuttle to dock with Alder 7. He and his assistants waited in the station's small conference room. Defensive weapons within easy reach but not openly displayed. When the airlock opened, 3 humans entered the station. Captain Reed was a female human who appeared to be in her 30s, though Keth had learned not to trust appearances when dealing with alien species. She moved with a fluid grace that suggested enhanced reflexes and physical conditioning. Her 2 companions, a male and female who introduced themselves as Lieutenant North and Specialist Gray, maintained positions that would allow them to respond quickly to any threat. Thank you for agreeing to meet with us, Reed said, taking a seat at the conference table. I know this must come as quite a shock. Your records show that humanity was declared extinct nearly 3 centuries ago. Keth studied the humans carefully. They looked exactly like the primitive species from the old observation files. But there was something different about them. Their eyes held depths that spoke of advanced knowledge and long experience. Their movements were too precise, too controlled. These were not the chaotic, undisciplined creatures from the historical records. "How are you here?" Keth asked bluntly. "Our observations showed your species destroying itself through warfare and environmental collapse. No signals have been detected from your system for centuries." Reed smiled, and the expression was not entirely reassuring. "We went quiet, Supervisor. When your ship visited our system, we learned that we were not alone in the galaxy. We also learned that we were considered insignificant, so we decided to change that." She produced a small device that projected a holographic display showing Earth's solar system. But this was not the dead system that collective records described. Asteroid, mining facilities, orbital manufacturing platforms, and defensive installations filled the display. Dozens of ships moved between the planets, and the energy signatures suggested a thriving industrial civilization. "We have spent 3 centuries preparing for our return to galactic civilization," Reed continued. "During that time, we have been watching and learning. We know about the collective's trade routes, military capabilities, and political structure. We know about the Christarch Empire's expansion into the outer spiral arms. We know about the Veil Dancer raids and the new Crix. Threat on the galactic rim? We know all of this because we have been observing you with the same attention you once gave us." Keth felt a chill that had nothing to do with the station's recycled atmosphere. "You have been spying on us for centuries? You have been learning?" Red corrected. "When you emerge into a galaxy full of advanced civilizations, it is wise to understand what you are entering. We have used our time well." Lieutenant North leaned forward slightly. "Our intelligence networks have identified 47 major alien civilizations, mapped their territories, analyzed their technologies, and assessed their military capabilities. We know which species are allies, which are enemies, and which are neutral parties that might be willing to trade with newcomers." Specialist Gray added, "We have also developed technologies that your scientists have not yet achieved. Our ships can travel faster than light without creating detectable energy signatures. Our materials are stronger and lighter than anything in current galactic production. Our computers can process information at speeds that exceed even Christarch systems." Keth looked at the data files still displayed on his screens. Evidence of intelligence gathering that had penetrated the most secure systems in collective space. "What do you want from us?" Reed's expression became more serious. "We want what every emerging civilization wants: recognition, trade opportunities, and peaceful coexistence. However, we also want to ensure that humanity is treated as an equal partner, rather than a primitive species to be patronized or exploited." She gestured to the holographic display, which now showed human ships positioned throughout the local galactic region. "We have the capability to take what we want by force, but we prefer negotiation. The galaxy is large enough for all of us to prosper." The implication was clear but unspoken. Humanity had spent 3 centuries preparing for this moment, developing technologies and gathering intelligence that gave them significant advantages over the established galactic powers. They were offering partnership, but they were also demonstrating that they had the capability to be a serious threat, if that. Partnership was refused. Keth realized that the galaxy had just become a much more complicated place. The species that had been dismissed as primitive and forgotten had returned to something far more dangerous. A unified civilization that had spent centuries preparing for this exact moment. The balance of power that had existed for millennia was about to change, dramatically. The Galactic Council had not convened in emergency session for over 2 centuries. The last time had been during the Christarch Veil Dancer War, when both species had threatened to destabilize trade routes throughout the spiral arm. Representatives from 47 different civilizations gathered in the Great Chamber that orbited the neutron star axis, their voices filling the vast space with dozens of languages and communication methods. Ambassador Vega of the Aldorian Collective stood at the central podium, his report still causing waves of disbelief throughout the assembly. The old Aldorian's forearms gestured emphatically as he repeated the details that seemed impossible to believe. The humans claim to represent a unified Earth government, Vega announced to the gathered delegates. They possess stealth technology that renders their ships invisible to our sensors. They have intelligence networks that have penetrated our most secure facilities. Most disturbing of all, they have somehow developed these capabilities while maintaining the illusion that their species was extinct. High Counselor Zun of the Crystarch Empire resonated skeptically, her crystalline form shifting through colors that indicated deep doubt. Impossible. We maintained observation posts in that system for decades after their supposed collapse. The readings were consistent. Environmental destruction, resource depletion, population decline. There was no indication of hidden civilization. Fabricated, Vega replied grimly. According to their own admission, every signal we intercepted was carefully crafted to maintain the illusion of a dying species. While we believed they were destroying themselves, they were actually unifying and preparing for their emergence into galactic civilization. Commander Threx of the Veil Dancers spoke through the translation matrix. His people's energy-based communication converted into words the other species could understand. If this is true, then they have accomplished something unprecedented. No species in galactic history has successfully hidden an entire civilization for centuries while developing advanced technology. The debate that followed was heated and confused. Some delegates argued that the human claims were impossible, that no primitive species could develop such advanced capabilities in isolation. Others pointed out that the evidence was difficult to dispute. The data files the humans had provided contained information that only decades of careful observation could have gathered. Minister Kask of the Hegemony Coalition raised a critical question. Even if we accept that they have developed advanced technology, what are their intentions? A species that has spent centuries in deception and secret observation could pose a significant threat to galactic stability. It was then that the proximity alarms began to sound, the great chambers massive. Transparent walls offered a perfect view of the space around the neutron star. Axis. The delegates watched in stunned silence as ships began to appear throughout the system. Not one or two vessels, but hundreds. Human ships materialized from apparently empty space. Having somehow bypassed every sensor network and defensive installation without triggering a single alert, the ships were beautiful in a way that spoke of advanced engineering and artistic sensibility. Their hulls flowed like organic forms, dark surfaces that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. They moved in perfect formation, maintaining precise distances and trajectories that demonstrated extraordinary coordination and control. Admiral Torres of the human fleet transmitted on all frequencies, her voice calm and professional despite the magnitude of what she had just accomplished. Honored delegates of the Galactic Council, humanity greets you. We apologize for the dramatic entrance, but we wanted to demonstrate that our intentions are entirely peaceful. Had we wished otherwise, this demonstration would have been unnecessary. The implications struck every species present like a physical blow. The humans had surrounded the most heavily defended system in the galaxy without being detected. They had positioned hundreds of ships within striking distance of the council chambers. No one had known they were there until they chose to reveal themselves. Counselor Jen's crystalline form cycled through rapid color changes that indicated extreme agitation. How many ships do you possess? How did you penetrate our defenses without detection? Admiral Torres's response sent tremors of concern through the assembly. These 400 vessels represent approximately 15% of our current fleet strength. As for your defenses, we have been studying galactic military technology for over 2 centuries. We know the capabilities and limitations of every sensor system, every defensive installation, and every patrol route in this region of space. The human admiral paused, allowing the implications to sink in before continuing. We have no hostile intentions toward any member of the Galactic Council. We seek trade, cultural exchange, and peaceful coexistence with all civilized species. However, we also want to ensure that humanity is treated as an equal partner rather than a subject species to be dominated or exploited. Ambassador Vega looked around the chamber at the faces of his fellow delegates, seeing his own concerns reflected in their expressions. If these 400 ships represented only 15% of human fleet strength, then humanity possessed military capabilities that rivaled or exceeded any single member of the Council. The Krex delegate, a large reptilian creature whose species was known for their aggressive nature, spoke with unusual restraint. You have made your point, humans. Your technology is impressive, and your intelligence-gathering capabilities are beyond what we believed possible. But why reveal yourselves now? Why not remain hidden and continue your observations? The captain, Reed, who had been standing quietly near Admiral Torres, stepped forward to answer. Because isolation has served its purpose. We have learned what we needed to learn and developed what we needed to develop. Now it is time for humanity to take its place in the galactic community. She gestured to the human ships maintaining their perfect formation around the council chambers. We could have remained hidden indefinitely, watching and learning while the galaxy continued without us. But that would have been a waste of our capabilities and your potential partnership. We believe that open cooperation will benefit all of our species. High Counselor Jen's colors had stabilized into a pattern that indicated cautious interest. What do you offer the galaxy, humans? What can your species provide that we cannot obtain elsewhere? Innovation, Reed replied simply. 3 centuries of isolated development have produced technologies and techniques that do not exist elsewhere in the galaxy. Our manufacturing processes produce materials that are stronger and lighter than current galactic standards. Our energy systems are more efficient and cleaner than anything currently in use. Our computing systems can process information at speeds that exceed even Christarch capabilities. She paused, looking around the chamber at the assembled delegates. More importantly, we offer a fresh perspective on problems that have plagued the galaxy for millennia. The Christarch expansion crisis, the Veil Dancer raids, the Krex conflicts on the Rim. All of these issues might benefit from solutions developed by minds that have been thinking about them from the outside. The debate that followed lasted for hours, but the fundamental question had already been answered. Humanity had demonstrated that they possessed the military capability to be a threat, and the technological advancement to be valuable allies. The choice facing the Galactic Council was simple. Accept humanity as equals and benefit from partnership, or treat them as enemies and face the consequences. As the human fleet maintained its silent vigil around the council chambers, each delegate began to calculate the new realities of galactic politics. The species that had been forgotten and dismissed had returned as a major power, and the galaxy would never be the same. 1 year had passed since humanity announced its return to the galactic community, and the changes were visible everywhere. President Maria Santos stood on the observation deck of Harmony Station, humanity's first diplomatic outpost in neutral space. Watching the steady flow of interstellar traffic that now included sleek human vessels alongside the familiar shapes of alien craft, the integration had been remarkably smooth, though not without its challenges. Galaxy's established powers had needed time to adjust to the presence of a new major civilization, especially one that had appeared so suddenly and dramatically. But the benefits of cooperation had quickly become apparent to all parties involved. The trade agreements are performing better than projected, reported Ambassador Foster. Reviewing the latest reports from human colonies across the galaxy, Foster had been one of the lead negotiators during the initial contact period, helping to establish the framework for humanity's integration into galactic society. The Christarch Empire has agreed to a technology exchange program, Foster continued. They want our stealth technology and energy storage systems in exchange for their advanced manufacturing techniques and computational methods. The Aldorian Collective is interested in our resource extraction processes, particularly our ability to mine asteroids without environmental damage. Santos nodded, watching a human cargo vessel dock with a Christarch transport ship. The sight still seemed strange after centuries of isolation, but it was becoming more common each day. Human ships were now regular visitors to ports throughout the galaxy, carrying goods and knowledge that had been developed during the long years of hidden growth. What about the Veil Dancers? Santos asked. The nomadic species had been one of the more difficult groups to establish relations with, partly because their energy-based physiology made communication challenging, and partly because their raiding lifestyle had made them suspicious of outsiders. Actually, they have become some of our most enthusiastic partners, Foster replied with a smile. It turns out that our meditation and mental discipline techniques are extremely helpful for their species. They exist partially in higher dimensions, and our methods help them maintain better control over their energy forms. This had been one of the unexpected benefits of humanity's emergence. The techniques and knowledge developed during 3 centuries of isolation were proving valuable to species that had different biological and psychological needs. Human agricultural methods were turning barren worlds into gardens. Human conflict resolution techniques were helping to end wars that had lasted for generations. Director Walsh of the Intelligence Division approached with his weekly report. Walsh had been one of the architects of humanity's observation network, and he continued to oversee the intelligence-gathering operations that had been so crucial to their successful emergence. The Krek situation is stabilizing, Walsh reported. Our military advisors have been working with the Galactic Council to develop new strategies for dealing with their expansion. The combination of our stealth technology and their traditional military approaches has been very effective. The Kreks had been one of the galaxy's most persistent problems, warrior species that had been attacking settlements on the galactic rim for decades. Traditional military responses had been largely ineffective, because the Kreks were excellent at hiding their bases and launching surprise attacks. But human ships could approach Kreks' positions undetected, providing intelligence and support for conventional forces. More importantly, Walsh continued, we have opened diplomatic channels with the Kreks' leadership. Turns out that their expansion is driven by resource shortages on their home worlds. We have proposed a trade agreement that would provide them with the materials they need in exchange for ending their raids. Santos was pleased, but not surprised. The intelligence network that humanity had built during their years of observation had provided deep insights into the motivations and needs of every major galactic civilization. Problems that seemed intractable from the outside often had simple solutions when viewed with complete information. Dr. Kim, who had been the chief engineer of the Prometheus project, arrived with the latest technological reports. Kim was now overseeing the integration of human technology with existing galactic systems, a complex process that required careful coordination with dozens of different species. The new shipyard at Proxima Station is ahead of schedule, Kim reported. We are producing hybrid vessels that combine human stealth technology with Aldorian construction techniques and Christarch computational systems. The result is ships that are superior to anything any single species could produce alone. This was the future that humanity had envisioned during their long preparation. It's not conquest or domination, but partnership and mutual benefit. The galaxy was becoming stronger and more prosperous as different species shared their knowledge and capabilities. Commander Torres, now promoted to Admiral and serving as humanity's military liaison to the Galactic Council, provided the security. Report. Torres had been instrumental in demonstrating human military capabilities during the initial contact, and she continued to oversee the integration of human forces with existing galactic defense networks. Our joint training exercises with Aldorian and Christarch forces have been very successful, Torres reported. We are developing new tactics that take advantage of each species' strengths while compensating for their weaknesses. The result is military units that are more effective than any single species could field alone. She paused, looking out at the traffic flowing around Harmony Station. More importantly, we have established trust. The other species no longer see us as a potential threat. They see us as partners in maintaining galactic security. President Santos smiled at this. Trust had been the most important goal of humanity's emergence strategy. Military capability had been necessary to ensure that they were taken seriously, but trust was what would allow them to build lasting relationships with other civilizations. What about the observation network? Santos asked. Are we still monitoring the galaxy? Walsh nodded. The network remains active, but its purpose has changed. Instead of gathering intelligence about potential enemies, we are now providing early warning about threats to galactic stability. The Veil Dancers have actually asked us to help them monitor the outer spiral arms for signs of unknown hostile species. This represented a fundamental shift in how the galaxy operated. instead of each species maintaining their own limited intelligence. Networks, humanity was providing comprehensive monitoring services for the entire galactic community. The same capabilities that had allowed them to remain hidden for centuries were now being used to protect everyone. Dr. Parks, now serving as humanity's chief scientific advisor, arrived with the final report of the day. Park had been one of the key figures in managing humanity's hidden civilization, and she now overseed the scientific exchanges that were benefiting all species. The collaborative research projects are producing remarkable results, Park reported. Combining human innovation with Christart's computational power and Eldorian, engineering precision has led to breakthroughs in energy production, materials science, and biological enhancement. We are solving problems that no single species could address alone. Santos looked around at the faces of the people who had helped guide humanity's emergence into the galactic community. They had taken enormous risks, gambling the future of their species on a plan that had required centuries of patience and preparation. But the results had exceeded their most optimistic projections. "There is one more thing," Walsh said quietly. "Our deep space monitoring stations have detected signals from beyond the galactic rim. It's unknown species, possibly hostile, possibly peaceful. The galaxy may soon face challenges that will require all of our combined capabilities." Santos nodded thoughtfully. This was why humanity had prepared so carefully, why they had spent centuries developing their capabilities before revealing themselves. The galaxy was a dangerous place, full of unknown threats and challenges. But now, instead of facing those challenges alone, dozens of species would work together to meet whatever came next. "Then we will be ready," Santos said simply. "All of us, together." Through the observation deck's windows, the flow of interstellar traffic continued. Human ships worked alongside alien vessels, carrying goods and knowledge between worlds that had once been isolated from each other. The galaxy was changing, becoming something stronger and more unified than it had ever been before. In the depths of space, human observation posts continued their eternal watch, but now they were not alone. Eldorian sensors monitored the galactic core, while Christarch computers analyzed data streams from thousands of worlds. Veil Dancer scouts patrolled the energy fields between star systems, while Krex warriors guarded the outer boundaries of civilized space. The galaxy had learned to work together, and at the center of that cooperation was humanity. The species that had once been dismissed as primitive and forgotten had become the glue that held the galactic community together. Their patience, their preparation, and their willingness to share what they had learned had transformed not just their own future, but the future of every civilized species in the galaxy. President Santos often thought about the day over 3 centuries ago when Dr. Marcus Bell had detected that first alien signal. He could never have imagined that those 4.7 seconds of alien contact would lead to this moment. When humanity stood as equals among the stars, respected and valued by civilizations that spanned the galaxy, the age of human silence was over, but the lessons learned in those quiet centuries continued to guide them. Patience, preparation, and the wisdom to watch and learn before acting had served humanity well. Now those same qualities were helping to build a galaxy where different species could work together for the benefit of all. As Santos watched the traffic flowing around Harmony Station, she saw the future that humanity had worked so hard to achieve. Not conquest or domination, but partnership and mutual respect. The galaxy was vast enough for all of them to prosper and wise enough now to ensure that they did so together. The name of humanity echoed across the stars, carried on the voices of 1,000 species who had learned that silence was not weakness, but preparation. And in that preparation, the galaxy had found a strength it had never known before.